Welcome to WrestleRecap. I am Dylan Graves, he is John Sutton, and this is the Raw Recap. So Raw opens up with Rhea Ripley coming down to the ring right away. She is noticeably injured. She's got her arm in a sling, and you can tell by the look on her face that she is just absolutely gutted. She gets down to the ring and announces that she's got to vacate the title because she is going to be, quote, on the bench for quite a few months. She even stumbles over her words a little bit with how upset she is.
Upsetty.
So, yeah, she is upsetty. And so then on day 380 of her reign, she has been forced to vacate the Women's World Championship due to injury. Horrible circumstances.
Especially seeing as the woman who injured her now, or the woman she injured now injured her.
Well, right, and that plays into part of what she said, because after she lays the title down, she goes on to say, quote, "Could have had respect for you if you came face to face, but instead chose to blindside like a coward," or something
Yeah.
like that. That's not the exact quote, but that's basically what she was saying. But I actually have the date here. It was back on July 24th of 2023 when Rhea blindsided Liv, thus injuring her before she returned back at the Royal Rumble in January.
Kind of coincidental to me that happened. It could be real, it could be not real. It could also not be as severe. We don't know, but I mean,
Oh, actually, we do.
I haven't seen anything. I just know that she's actually hurt.
It's been reported that I forget who it was that reported it. I'll have to get that clarified when I do the news. But it's been reported that she has an AC joint sprain, meaning that she'll be out roughly 4.5 months, 4 months, give or take. 4 to 6 weeks to gain mobility again, and then another, I believe they figure 3 months to get back into ring shape kind of deal. If she can get back into ring shape faster than 3 months, she could possibly return for Money in the Bank, which could be interesting. Have her return and win Money in the Bank with Liv as women's champion.
But now what do you do with the title now that it's vacated?
Well, that was announced that next week. I believe that was announced near the end of the show. That next week that there will be a new women's champion crowned.
And that's between who again?
They have not announced that, at least not as of last night's Raw. I doubt that it was announced on NXT tonight.
Do we want to make a prediction on that just because it'll be next week on Raw?
I mean, you can make a prediction of who you think's going to win. I think it's going to be Liv.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably her.
Rhea says that when she comes back, she's coming for blood, and that if she finds Liv backstage, she's going to end up in Montreal jail, at which point Liv comes out. Kind of funny.
Kind of teases it a little bit, like I'm right here.
They've got security holding them both back. Rhea jumps out of the ring while Pierce is yelling for Liv to stay back, and Rhea tries to charge at Liv, even with her arm in the sling. And in the end, she just ends up headbutting a security guard.
Yeah, that was random. Just one guy just took the brunt of it.
Yeah, probably a future NXT champion. We then go into a commercial break. Right as the commercial break starts, we get an advertisement for the WWE draft.
No side by side this time.
What do you mean?
Because the match is usually after a while.
Oh no,
there was
no picture in a picture this week.
I know. It's just funny to say it now.
Uh, but so the first thing into the commercial break, we get an advertisement for the WWE draft, and they've updated the draft logo. The W has been split in half. Half is red, half is blue, and now the swoosh is yellow to indicate NXT's increased involvement. When we come back from break, we see Rhea backstage being consoled by her Judgment Day teammates. Rhea tells them to keep the Judgment Day on top, and they seemed pretty strong in agreement on that. So I had kind of started thinking, maybe we're gonna keep Judgment Day together now. But then later in the show, there's some things that went down that changed my mind on that.
I think it's going to be between Finn and Priest.
Yeah, for sure. Damian Priest has taken on a whole new attitude with this title.
A weird one.
Well, I mean, he views himself as the leader of the Judgment Day now, especially with Rhea gone.
Oh, yeah. Things are going to be amped up.
But following that, it's now time for Sheamus to return. We initially get the start of his theme song, Hellfire. But then when it hits the point where it pops and like the pyro goes off, the music changes and we get Written in My Face back. Love that song.
That's what, when I heard that, I was like, dude, hell yeah.
Yeah. Oddly enough, though, we still have the Brawling Brutes style Tron.
I don't understand it, but I mean, I'm sure next week or maybe SmackDown when he's there, they'll have a new Titantron.
So Sheamus is out there to face Ivar. The match starts off and it's relatively back and forth. Ivar goes up to the top rope, but Sheamus catches him and ends up hitting him with an avalanche white noise from the middle rope, leading into a commercial break. When we come back from commercial, Sheamus gets Ivar in the ropes, hits him with the 10 beats of Bowrun. I believe that is how it's supposed to be said. I looked it up to determine the pronunciation of it, and that is, I believe, the correct way to pronounce it from what I was able to gather. Later in the match, Ivar cartwheels into a knee to the gut. Then goes for try to hit in a springboard off the second rope, but Sheamus hits him with a move apparently called the knee cap before following it up with a brogue kick for the win.
It was a match. It was a little sloppy. You could tell he hasn't been in the ring much, but overall, I mean, that ring rust is going to shake off, and I think he could get back to at least being somewhat of his old self again. I know he's older, so I don't know how much longer he has, but it's just nice to see him back, and apparently going to be babyface.
Yeah, it seems like it. I don't think that we see him around a world title anymore in his career, but Michael Cole did remind everyone that the Intercontinental Championship is the only title that Sheamus hasn't won yet, so that's possibly planting the seed for a renewed quest of capturing that title.
Can I also point out that Michael Cole has really found his true self again? I know we talked about it last week, but like even Pat McAfee even complimented him this week.
Oh yeah, Michael Cole is just out here having a blast on commentary now. Being able to talk without Vince yelling in his ear what to say all the time, it's definitely a breath of fresh air.
I think seeing Pat McAfee kind of just enjoy his time there has kind of tuned him into just being himself, which has made his product, and not just his, but the whole production just that much better in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. The commentary feels more authentic rather than scripted. Actually, when we come back from a commercial break, they are using the telestrator and Pat McAfee is pointing out that Sheamus spilled his drink.
Poor Pat.
Yeah.
Poor Pat.
Uh,
Could have been worse. He could have been sitting at the Spanish announce desk.
well, they didn't have the Spanish announce team at ringside this week, so their table was safe.
No, but they could have been.
They could have if they would have been there. We know that their table would have been destroyed. I don't make the rules, but those are the rules.
Those are the rules. You won't go by those rules.
Following the telestrator, we have red carpet in the ring with Adam Pearce on a podium, and then Triple H comes out. The crowd just goes absolutely nuts because it's Triple H. We're reminded twice over that it's a new era.
Wait, that was Triple H?
Well, Awesome Truth comes out as well, so, our Truth is thinking that it's Ciampa. But before we get to that, Awesome Truth gets out there, and the crowd is chanting, "Vous le méritez," I believe is how it's said. I was very confused at first because it was like, are they all trying to chant something different? But then in unison, it changed from what sounded foreign to me, because it would have been foreign, it was French, to "You deserve it." So the crowd was chanting "You deserve it" in French, which makes sense.
WWE producers were probably like, Americans don't know what you're talking about unless they know French.
Well, it's just part of the thing.
It's
like
their culture.
Yeah, it's the French culture.
Yeah, the French quotas.
It's the Canadian culture, the French Canadian culture. There we go.
Oui.
Yeah, that chant got going too. And R-Truth got confused and thought that they were saying "we" as in W-E, not "we" as in O-U-I. We were also reminded again that it's a new era.
It is a new era.
I have a question mark by this one for it being the third time that it's mentioned. Does that become a new drinking game? Take a drink every time we're reminded that it's a new era.
Please no. I'm gonna be drunk before this show even starts.
Triple H is out there with Raw General Manager Adam Pearce, along with the Raw Tag Team Championships. The World Tag Team Championships, because they got some new belts. Mixed reviews for the look online. People have been calling them the Pizza Championships. There's just no pleasing these people. It's better than the Penny Championships. It's better than the Silver Dollar Championships. But now they're just going to complain that it's round. I'm sorry. Do you forget that the World Championship was round during the Attitude Era?
Well, I remember when they changed them to the Raw and SmackDown, and everyone was like, those are like, generic as hell. Why do we have these things? And I actually like these new belts.
I do. I do too.
Saw, and I was like, they look really good. Hearing pizza belt though, that makes me laugh. And now I just like these belts even more because you know how I feel about my pizza.
Yeah, I actually saw a picture on Facebook where someone had edited over the main plate of them, and it was just a pizza with the WWE logo on it. Throughout this whole ordeal, Triple H is struggling to not break character, and finally asks The Miz to explain what's going on.
They all were struggling.
Oh, but it was great.
R-Truth knew what he was doing.
Absolutely. Right here it is in my notes that Triple H is Tommaso Ciampa in R-Truth's eyes, and he calls him a crafty little genie.
And he also called him a Houdini as well.
Yep. But it was the crafty little genie line that finally got Triple H to crack.
It makes me laugh. Just thinking about the whole segment back, dude. That was probably my favorite part of Raw.
Yeah, I loved it. Miz takes a third attempt at trying to explain to R-Truth what's going on, and he starts speaking French for this. Now, it would make sense that the Miz would know French, seeing as he is married to WWE alum Maurice, who is French Canadian herself.
She's an alum now?
I mean, I don't know that she's active, and she's not a Hall of Famer, so that would just make her an alum. After Miz explains it to Truth in French, he finally starts to understand, and that is when the "we" chants break out. After Truth confuses the "we" as in French for yes for "we" as in you and I, that's when Triple H finally has enough, and he just takes the Raw tag titles from Truth and Miz, hands them the new ones, and then tells Adam Pearce good luck before leaving. Pearce then goes on to ask why they made Triple H leave, to which R-Truth tells him that Triple H isn't even out there, dog. At that time, Adam Pearce announces that there's going to be a triple threat match to determine the number one contenders of the tag team championships, and that it's going to start right now. And of course, DIY's got to be the team that comes out right away. So then, while they're making their entrance, as soon as they come out, we then see R-Truth in the ring, and he still has a mic. At which point he goes, "There's Triple H right there." So, this whole segment, I would have to agree, probably my favorite part of Raw. But R-Truth is just a national treasure.
God, he's gonna be like Betty White. Everyone hopes he just lives forever and can continue to perform.
I mean, this man has not aged a single day in the last 20 years.
Very true, very true.
But
His ability has gone downhill a little bit, but he's still like an agile cat out there.
oh yeah, he at one point did his whole jumping splits maneuver.
Hurts me every time I see it.
Yeah. But the number one contenders match was between DIY, New Day, and the Creed brothers. Now, during the New Day's entrance, we had the visual interruption with a QR code that came up on the screen. It's most likely an Uncle Howdy tease again. I have not taken the time to check out the QR code. I'm going to save talking about that more when I do the news, because all we got on Raw was the code itself. But the match gets underway. The Creeds right away look to use the power game to their advantage. But leading into the first commercial break, we get DIY trying to do suicide dives to the Creeds on the outside, but the Creed brothers just catch them. Following that, New Day jumps over the top rope and takes everybody out. And then we finally lead into the commercial break. When we come back from break, everyone is down with Kofi, Ciampa, and Julius Creed in the ring. Once again, it becomes a back and forth match before DIY takes control. Ciampa hits Kofi with Project Ciampa for a 2 count before the crowd starts chanting Triple H at Tommaso Ciampa. At which point he then feeds into it, doing a crotch chop at Kofi before attempting to hit a fairy tale ending, which the setup is like a pedigree.
Yep.
Kofi gets out of it and gets the hot tag to Woods, who then comes in and takes control before eventually everything just kind of breaks down again. The closing moments of the match, Brutus Creed gets pushed off the top rope and hit with a super kick by Woods on the outside. After that, Kofi goes up top, but Julius Creed goes up and catches him, hitting him with a superplex. But before he hits the superplex, Woods tagged in. So while Julius was still on the ground from hitting the superplex, Woods hits him with the limit break elbow. He goes for the pin, but DIY hits him with the meat in the middle, at which point Ciampa pins Xavier Woods to become the number one contenders for Awesome Truth's World Tag Team Championships.
And that's going to be a Backlash, correct?
No, that's next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
that match is taking place next week. I also feel like an idiot after we recorded the Raw one for last week, speculating like Jay's probably going to face Priest at Backlash. I'm pretty sure they said that he would face him at Backlash on the show. And I definitely said in the SmackDown one that I'm guessing the winner of the number one contenders match will face Cody at Backlash, which I know that they absolutely said that that's what will happen. So I'm just...
So you're on a roll.
Oh yeah, we're out here just speculating what's been stated.
Sources telling me.
Yeah, per sources, as in the literal fucking show, this is probably going to happen.
But it's only speculation.
Yeah, don't want to get anybody's hopes up. Following a commercial break, we get a flashback to last week where Punk cost Drew McIntyre the match. We then see Drew McIntyre backstage where he watched this on a monitor. He proceeds to kick the monitor over and then storm off when asked about it. I guess it's at this point that we go into the commercial break. That happened prior to the commercial break.
You know what to take away from this?
That Drew's just still pissed off at CM Punk?
No. He finally learned to just walk away.
Following the commercial break, Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae come out. Indy still seems a little unsure about Candice's new attitude. We then see that their opponents are Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile. And the whole reason of this match was apparently because of an exchange on X where Maxine posted a picture of her dressed as a hot dog, to which Indy Hartwell commented on it like in a friendly manner, and Candice LeRae didn't like that. So that's why this match is happening. It's a slow start before Ivy and Maxine take control. Maxine hits Indy Hartwell with a fisherman suplex before Candice LeRae starts to get in the ring, but Maxine confronts her. At this time, we kind of start to realize that this might be the time when Indy finally agrees with Candice LeRae in turning heel, because she takes advantage of Maxine Dupree's attention being drawn away and tags in Candice LeRae. Following the tag, LeRae just maintains control with this new aggressive fighting style that she's using, and Indy Hartwell seems to be all for it now. Like, the look on her face was an approving look. We end up getting a double down, and Maxine is going to tag out, but Indy Hartwell breaks the rules and goes in to stop the tag from happening. However, the ref stops her. Therefore, he misses Maxine's tag. So when Ivy Nile comes in, the ref starts telling her, you have to go out, you haven't been tagged, whatever. This allows Indy Hartwell to hit a cheap shot on Maxine before putting Candice LeRae on top of her to score the win. And we finally have Indy Hartwell not just kind of acting like a pushover. Following the match, we get a video package for Damian Priest showing him in 2019 back at the Performance Center. And then we get a few shots of him from on the Indies, with the package obviously culminating with him becoming world champ. Following the video package, we are shown the Judgment Day again in their clubhouse, trying to get amped up, but obviously they're still upset about Rhea having to vacate the title and head on home. Priest gets Dom fired up for his match with Andrade. before him and JD head off because Priest tells JD to be at Dom's side for the match. Finn then tells Priest that he thinks their focus should be on getting the tag titles back, but he's apparently got to face Jey Uso tonight. To which Damian Priest tells him that he needs Finn to hurt Jey ahead of Backlash. So my notes around this are, is Priest positioning himself as the new leader? And are we getting some dissension in the ranks because Finn feels that he should be the leader, despite not holding the heavyweight championship? Obviously, the initial leader would have been Edge. Following them getting rid of him, it seemed like they brought Finn Balor in to be the leader. But somewhere along the way, he kind of just stepped aside, and Rhea was more or less the de facto leader. So now with her absence, it's probably just going to be a power struggle that leads to their split. But I think the obvious answer there is that Dominic gets drafted to SmackDown before he joins the LDF.
And then that probably becomes a problem with the Judgment Day.
Well, if he gets drafted to SmackDown, he'll be effectively done with the Judgment Day. Following the commercial break, we get a shot from earlier in the day where Chad Gable is seen training with the Creeds. Gable makes the comment that after training so much with Sammy that he's learned his weaknesses. Obvious foreshadowing once you know what happens later in the night, especially after the Creeds posted about on X in support of Gable. We're basically getting Team Angle, if you get what I'm saying there.
A Team Angle.
Yes.
You gonna make me try to find the hypotenuse with them two angles or what?
Yeah, it's a Kurt Angle.
Shut.
See what I did there?
Oh, it's true.
Oh, it's damn true.
That would be an interesting team for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they've all got the amateur wrestling background, and I think they could all benefit. But the next match is Andrade versus Dominic Mysterio with JD McDonough. It's a back and forth match. Dom and Andrade both go back and forth at one point, attempting to hit the three amigos on each other. It's around this point that I believe it was Michael Cole made the comment that Ray probably wishes that he lost the match against Eddie for custody of Dominic. And it's actually in an interview, Ray, while in character, of course, did say that he wishes he lost that match. So, like, they're having these people do interviews like that outside of the show, and it adds more layers than what we're used to getting. Leading into the commercial break, JD interferes, allowing Dom to take control, but when we come back, Andrade is fighting back. He then hits the running Meteora in the corner, but only gets a 2 count out of it. McAfee at this point calls Dom the human form of bedbugs. So last week Dom was a dude wipe after you wipe, and this week he is the human form of bedbugs.
Didn't he also call him something else during the match?
Probably.
I
think that's the only one that I marked down.
What was it? This country destroyer on the apron.
Oh yeah, because he hit a Canadian destroyer on the apron to Andrade, but since they were in Canada, Pat McAfee just said this country destroyer. But Dom only gets a 2 off of that. He then sets up to hit the 619, but Andrade catches him with the discus back elbow. JD tries to get involved, but Andrade takes him out. Andrade then hits Dom with that sick looking. I don't even know, like it's a swinging neck breaker, but the way he sets it up is like it's going to be a suplex. But post match, JD begins attacking Andrade. Dom joins in too before Ricochet comes out to make the save.
Ricochet and Andrade would be a hell of a team.
Well, that does set up a match that was announced for next week. Ricochet and Andrade will be taking on Dom and JD McDonough. So I believe that actually concludes all of the matches set for next week. Following this, we get a flashback to last Friday on SmackDown with the Bloodline. Solo taking out Jimmy and the Tama Tonga debut. We then cut to Jay, who is backstage, and they ask him his thoughts about the attack on his brother. He calls messing with the Bloodline a deep, dark road and says that he told Jimmy to leave with him, but he can't worry about that right now because he's got a world championship match, and more importantly, he faces Finn Balor tonight. We then get a commercial break. When we come back, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven come out. Michael Cole talks about how they've faced Jade twice last week and says that Chelsea Green actually made an appeal to Ava, the general manager of NXT, to get her out of there during the draft. She wants no part of having to face Jade Cargill anymore. The match turns out to be Chelsea Green and Piper Niven versus Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. Piper takes control early. Carter and Chance turn it around briefly, but Piper and Chelsea Green end up getting the win after what I have written down as a mess of a match between a weak double team in the corner by Chelsea and Piper to some weak closed-fisted blows in the center of the ring by Kaden Carter, and then also the camera caught Chelsea Green telling Katana Chance when to kick out at one point. Between the production on the match and just the match itself, it was not a good performance, which sucks because they're better than that. We get a commercial break following the match. When we come back, Liv Morgan is backstage. It definitely seems like we're getting a heel turn from Liv, only because of the fact that despite trying to be perceived as a heel, too many people already viewed Rhea as a face and cheered her. But Liv says that there was no sympathy for her when Rhea ripped her shoulder out of place and cost her 8 months of her career. She says it's an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, shoulder for a shoulder. And then she says that it's just the beginning of the Liv Morgan revenge tour, and the tour doesn't end until she is champion.
It's going to be a quick tour.
Yeah, I'm definitely expecting her to win next week and then hold it until... I think if Rhea could push it and come back at Money in the Bank, that they would have her win Money in the Bank and then just be a thorn in the side of Liv Morgan as champion.
Yeah. Because the whole point of her coming back was to battle. I'm assuming it was to have a SummerSlam matchup between these two. And now that's kind of gone theoretically out the window because Rhea was probably going to hold it till then. And now they had audible to something a little different. They might still have the same outcome for a match, but it's going to be slightly different in the way that they get there.
Yeah, the injury will definitely force an audible to be called. Where we go from here to be determined, especially with the Rhea and Liv angle. It all just depends on how fast Rhea comes back from injury. After the backstage segment, Cody Rhodes comes out. Every time he comes out, WWE launches off a month's worth of my wage worth of pyro. We get Cody chants. We get Olay chants. Cody starts speaking French to them, so they go absolutely nuts. Cody goes on to thank Seth for helping him at Mania. He says that The Rock made a comment that he's only got one match left in him, but he feels that The Rock has far more than that. And he also hints at the fact that Roman may not be the tribal chief anymore. Which I predicted, I believe I predicted that during the SmackDown recap, that I feel like The Rock is going to be the new tribal chief, phoning it in, so to speak. Because the seed for the Usos to return as a unit has been planted with the attack on Jimmy. So he can move and reunite with Jay. Then Roman can come back, and those three can be the babyface team. And we can have The Rock come back as the leader of the SmackDown version of the Bloodline. And there's your Survivor Series 5-on-5 match. Just figuring out who's going to go where.
Yeah, we did predict this would happen. So what would happen on Survivor Series?
Rikishi's going to be on the heel team because he posted on X following Solo Sikoa taking out Jimmy. He made a post in support of Solo Sikoa. So Kishi clearly has a favorite son. And it's not either of his twins.
The older ones even.
Right.
It's always the baby. It's always the youngest one, isn't it?
Probably. Wouldn't know.
Me either, but it's usually the youngest.
I made a comment in the SmackDown recap that Rikishi had blonde hair. Solo Sikoa's got blonde hair. Meanwhile, Jimmy and Jay both have brown hair. So, this has just been long-term storytelling at its finest.
Unintentional, but...
And then recently, WWE also signed Jacob Fatu. So he'll most likely become a member of this new heel, or this new Bloodline group that seems to be being led by probably The Rock.
I smell what you're cooking.
That's good. Following this kind of hint from Cody, he invites Jay to come out.
Yeet.
But before Jay comes out, he says that whenever Jay comes out, you can feel the energy from your head to your yeet.
Cringy.
It's not the only dad joke that he throws in there.
Oh, I know.
Because at the end of it, when Cody finally leaves, he tells Jay that it's until they yeet again. And then they both yeet and Cody leaves. One of these times, the announce table is going to break underneath Pat McAfee when he's up jumping around on it. Because this man is constantly jumping up on that table. And they've broken easily in the past.
That table broke at WrestleMania.
Right. Like, he's going to do it one of these times when they've got it prepped to be broken, and he's going to forget that and jump up on it, and it's going to break out from under him.
Well, I have to start watching for that. If he doesn't jump up when Jay goes out there, we'll know that it's going to be broke.
That possibly.
Spanish announce table, watch out.
Right. Michael Cole and Pat McAfee also started making less than PG references, just replacing certain words with the word yeet. It kind of felt like a farewell to Raw speech, which has become fairly evident by the fact that they have moved Cody to SmackDown on WWE.com. Makes
Has
sense.
to. One of them has to move. You can't have both champs on Raw.
Right. Cody also told Jay that he wanted to have his back against Damian Priest, but Jay said that he wants to do it solo before he cut another quick, cringy promo. Before the match gets underway, we have a commercial break, and when we come back, we hear from Nia Jax, who doesn't care that Rhea's been hurt. She says that she's going to win. Basically, she's calling her shot at the title. Acknowledges that the draft is coming up, so that she might be facing some opponents that she's never faced before, probably referencing Jade Cargill, possibly planting the seed that Jade gets drafted to Raw right after signing with SmackDown, but I feel like if anything, that might be flipped.
Yeah.
And then she says that there's two types of people, those who fear Nia Jax and those who learn to fear Nia Jax. Now, if this was Nia Jax from her first run, I would say, yeah, there's probably only one type of people, and that's people who fear getting hurt by Nia Jax.
Yeah.
But she's actually been a lot better since returning. And like she's gotten a lot of praise for improving in the ring during this second run. It's then time for Finn Balor and Jey Uso. Balor's music hits, but he instead attacks Jay from behind to take control of the match as soon as it starts. Michael Cole actually alludes that there's some possible dissension between Finn Balor and Damian Priest. We're also shown that Damian Priest is watching the match backstage from the clubhouse. Balor gains control heading into the commercial break. When we come back, he is still in control. Jay tries to fight back, but Balor hits him with an enziguri before getting hit with a Samoan drop for 2. We're then shown on Damian Priest again, watching back in the clubhouse. He says that he's going to go say hello before grabbing his title and leaving. I was expecting him to come out at a point where Balor had been trying to fight back and then finally did just in time for Priest's music to hit, which would then cost Balor the match. That did not happen. They just kind of start reversing or dodging moves, so to speak, because Jay hits Balor with a super kick and heads up to try and hit the Uso splash, which he misses. Balor then hits him with the shotgun drop kick in the corner and goes up for the coup de grace, which he misses. Jay then hits him with a spear and goes back up, this time successfully hitting the Uso splash for the 3 count. Priest then comes out post-match, and while distracted, Dom and JD attack Jay from behind. Finn seems to be upset that Priest is even there, but he joins the assault. It seemed like Balor wanted to do it on his own, and he was upset that Priest didn't think he could, which he did kind of lose the match.
Yep.
But Balor immediately started calling the shots then, while Priest just kind of stood there looking irritated. They throw Jay out of the ring, where he then hits Dom with a super kick and flees out into the crowd. JD and Balor chase after him, but Jay throws JD McDonough back into Finn Balor at the barricade and escapes up into the crowd. And we get, like, from here out, we get we get the best camera work of the night.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
They follow Jay all the way up through the crowd, out through the concession area.
Pushes the guy out of the way even that wants to take a selfie.
I mean, the dude walks out of the bathroom, or I should say the restroom, realizes what's going on, and then runs or fast walks to get in front of Jay, and then just stops with his phone still off and thinks that Jay's going to stop and take a picture with him. Like,
You know,
that's not how that
on
works.
live television.
Yeah, on live television. Dude sees the camera and thinks that he's there for a photo op.
Practical jokers. I don't see no cameras.
The camera then follows Jay as he just leaves the arena through the front door. Sami Zayn standing outside the front door, staring up at the arena. Sami Zayn says that he made his debut at this very arena. I was stupid and did not write down when he said that was. But the camera
thought he
then
said like 20 some years ago.
Yeah, it's like 22, 23 years ago.
Yeah.
But the camera then stays with Sami, so this is all just one long rolling cinematic take.
One take.
Yeah. And we follow Sami back in through the same concession area where obviously more fans have gathered because they're seeing this on the Tron. And if they know that that's their section, they're leaving their seats to go try and be a part of this. So there's more people, and Sami walks in.
It's more crowd interactive in my eyes.
Absolutely. Sami walks in and just starts screaming, getting everybody amped up. The crowd's going absolutely nuts when Sami enters the arena, and he enters in through the same section that Jay had just left. So they were already loud and going nuts. I actually got goosebumps when Sami came out, and you could just see the whole crowd, and all of a sudden the whole place just came alive all at once.
Singing a song and everything.
Always.
It was like one giant party.
It was. A fan gave Sami a Canadian flag to bring to the ring, which made the crowd just get even louder. This run of Sami going through the crowd, we spent probably 1.5 to 2 minutes before the commercial break just showing on him going through the different sections of the audience.
His entrance couldn't have gone any better.
Definitely
the Canadian flag was literally the cherry on top.
Sami's still out in the crowd when we go to commercial break, so I would imagine that he probably spent another 3 minutes out in the crowd before finally making his way to the ring to be like just getting in the ring when we come back from the commercial break. Following the break, they announced the matches lined up for next week, as we've said. A new women's world champion will be crowned. DIY challenges Awesome Truth for the world tag titles, and Ricochet and Andrade take on Dom and JD. The crowd is still going absolutely nuts for Sami. We then see on Chad Gable backstage, and the crowd immediately starts booing. Bronson Reed comes up and tells Gable that he don't care who wins tonight because whoever it is, they're going to have to deal with him. Like, sure. Okay. I don't...
Go away.
Well, it's not go away. It's they've not booked Bronson Reed to be much of anything of a threat on the main roster. He's
just a big dude.
Yeah, they call him Big Bronson Reed, but they don't book him to win important matches. When Gable comes out, there's initially like no reaction from the crowd. They just give him absolutely nothing. No, they don't even go as far as booing. If they were booing, then they were editing that out in the production truck. But I just think the crowd was not there at all to give Gable any form of a reaction. Like, nobody did the shoosh with him. Nobody did the thank you. It was just a dead crowd for Chad Gable.
They all used it up on Sami.
Probably. They were all trying to... They all...
They were all, like, heavy breath. They're like...
Yeah.
Dude, I can't do that.
They all had to go refuel on maple syrup to be ready for the match.
Yep.
But then during the introductions for the match, when Chad Gable was announced, then we finally got a crowd reaction and they booed him again. The match starts off back and forth. Sami eventually does, he feigns outside dive before Gable comes back in and they kind of stare down to go into the commercial break. Following the commercial break, Gable kind of takes control a bit. He gets a 2 count off a diving headbutt and begins to target Sammy's right knee. Gable counters the corner exploder into an ankle lock, but Sammy ends up sending Gable outside the ring. Sammy then hits a springboard moonsault to Gable on the outside of the ring to lead us into another commercial break. When we come back, Gable hits a top rope avalanche Olympic slam to take us to a double down before they begin trading German suplexes, which culminated in Sami Zayn hitting a release German, and Chad Gable landed right on his head.
Yeah,
that made me very nervous.
That hurt my... Dude, that's like... Dude, it looked bad.
It did. It didn't look as bad as Big E's, but that when they showed the replay and slowed it down, the first part of Gable's body to hit the mat was his head. Like, he landed straight on his head.
So hopefully he's okay after that.
I mean, he got back up and continued to work the match. I've not seen anything. It's now Tuesday, so I would imagine if he acquired an injury, that news would have broke by now.
He's very lucky, I will say
for
that.
Sure. Gable ends up in the corner, and Sammy starts to go for the haluva kick, but Gable catches him and turns it into an ankle lock. Sammy counters that and tries to go for a sharpshooter, synonymous with another certain Canadian family. But he can't lock in the sharpshooter because of he's got the hurt leg, his right leg. In the closing moments of the match, Sammy escapes an ankle lock and hits the exploder suplex into the corner, followed by the haluva kick to get the win. After the match, Sammy goes and consoles Gable, who is upset in the corner. There's then a
very
mutual...
upsetty.
Oh yeah, big upsetty. There's a mutual showing of respect between the two. But then I noticed that Sammy had left the title in the ring to go celebrate with his family, which in my head, it's like, I was thinking that's kind of odd that he just left the title in the corner on the opposite side of the ring from where he got out of the ring. It's like,
where Gable was
right.
sitting.
It's like, did this man forget that he's champion already and that he's got to carry that out with him? But so at this point, I thought that the Gable heel turn, that when they did the mutual showing of respect, I expected Gable to turn on him when he had his arm. And when he didn't, it's like, oh, okay, so we're not getting the Chad Gable heel turn. So that had already, I'd already decided that wasn't happening at this point in time. But like I said, I still thought that it was kind of odd that he didn't grab the title with him. So Sammy's over celebrating the win with his family, who is at ringside because he is the hometown boy. Chad Gable comes up from behind and just grabs Sammy, who is currently hugging, I believe it was his wife.
Yep.
And Chad Gable hits him with a German suplex on the outside. Among other parts to the post-match assault, Chad Gable tied Sammy up in the turnbuckles and locked in an ankle lock while taunting Sami Zayn's family. And that is how the show ended. I feel like we're going to get a rematch at Backlash.
Yeah. It's leading up to a big story. It's gonna go past Backlash for sure. I think Backlash is just the first of a few chapters with this feud for sure. It's gonna be one hell of a match for Backlash.
Oh, for sure. I just hope
that could be main event. It won't, but it could be.
Right. I just hope that they don't. I feel like this rivalry sees Chad Gable finally win a singles title. And I just hope that it doesn't happen at Backlash. Because then that would show that the only reason we put the title on Sammy was to sell tickets for the Montreal show.
Yeah, I never thought about that like that.
I want Sammy to at least hold it to SummerSlam, at which point I would be okay with him dropping it to Chad Gable, because they would have had time to have a decent enough feud where the title
Yeah.
could switch, and then have a subsequent rematch clause at the Bash in Berlin, at which point Gable would then walk out still the champion.
Ending the rivalry, probably.
Right. At that point, I feel like they'll have worked someone else into the position to be the next challenger. That concludes this week's Raw recap. I've been Dylan Graves. He's been John Sutton. If you want to support WrestleRecap, you can like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Tell us how bad we're doing. Tell us how good we're doing. Say whatever you want, as long as it's appropriate. Till next time, goodbye.